Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Jenna Banks Show. I am Jenna, your host, and I'm all about helping you live life to your fullest potential. My guest today is Amy Wong. She is an executive leadership coach with expertise in transpersonal psychology, design thinking, and intrapersonal neurobiology, and has catalyzed transformative growth for hundreds of executives, leaders, and teams. She has a passion for helping people identify blind spots, reclaim precious time, energy, and creative bandwidth, and create next level impact. Her new book, Living on Purpose, was released May 24th, 2022. Well, thank you so much for being here and having this conversation with me today.
I am so delighted to spend time with you, Jenna. You have no idea.
Aw, you're so sweet. You have been on this whirlwind book tour, right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
How
Yes.
does
And it's been so much fun.
how does it feel? This is your first book. I mean, this is like you're right in the middle of it. When did you launch? May, right?
Yeah, well, like when
Yeah, I
did
think it
I?
was.
Like I'm on fumes as we were talking earlier. Fumes. May 24th is
May
when it went.
24th.
Yeah,
Okay,
is
so
when
it's
it was.
super, super fresh. Oh my goodness. Well, for anyone who has not seen Amy's book yet, here it is, Living on Purpose. And I couldn't wait to have Amy on the show today to talk all about it because I just finished reading it. And oh my gosh, wow. Like, wow. Thank you for sharing this with the world. I think this is really important right here, right now. I think after COVID or during COVID, just so many people are looking to find their purpose. It seems like, like we got a chance to reset, sit back and really evaluate our lives and figure out like, what are we doing all this for? Right? Like, are we like for the money, for the hustle, for the day-to-day stress, for what? Like, what is all this for? And I think it forced a lot of us to, reevaluate our lives. And so your book, it's got to be like so timely right now.
Yeah, and gosh, absolutely. I mean, isn't it true though? COVID was and we're still kind of in this weird place, but what a reset,
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah.
just forced us awake
Mm-hmm.
from autopilot, or or we're still in the process of waking up from autopilot, really identifying what's most important to us and how we really
Yeah.
want to be living on our lives, spending our days. Yeah.
Yeah. So what got you to even think of writing this book? Was it during COVID or before then?
Oh, way before. So I've
Okay.
been coaching for over 10 years, and but all things consciousness studies and transformation, the topic itself. I mean, I've been immersed in this since I was quite young. So very devoted and dedicated to all things thriving and coaching as a profession. I've been doing this for over a decade. In 2014, I knew exactly what the book needed to be. I mean, I and the pull, the call to get this work out into the world was so intense. I was like, because I know it helps people. I'm like, this
Yeah.
is going to help people. And was started to happen in my sessions and with the people I was working with, it was true transformation.
Yeah.
And it was like, gosh, well, I'm able to help people that I'm working with personally. I mean, but I'm only able to help those that I can
Yeah.
work with personally. I want to be able to let everybody in on this. And so I knew what the book really needed to be at its core
Yeah.
in 2014, but I knew I wasn't ready to write it
Hmm.
because I was still in the process of accumulating the stories and the examples and the research, and I knew I would know when it was time. And it wasn't until 2019 that it was like, okay, you got it. You know what? Okay, you've got to know it is time. And so began the process officially at the end of 2019. But literally the first week of 2020 is when I sat down and started like with rigor. And then the
Hmm.
world shut down, that year.
Perfect time to write a book, right?
Exactly. And so I was like, wow. So it literally took me all year,
Yeah.
2020 to write it. And I finished the manuscript by December 27th of 2020.
Ah, well,
Isn't that crazy?
how are you feeling about it? Because it is just so for me. reading it fresh, in the last month. It probably took me a few weeks to get through it. But it's only because I'm so busy, but a little bit every morning. And it was just like so many wonderful nuggets of wisdom. I'm like, my God, this is just so professionally done, so well thought out, so practical. It really is a road map for helping people understand how they can really truly live life on purpose. So what ultimately is the goal with the book? When you say living life on purpose, what does that mean to you? What are you hoping to accomplish with this?
Yeah. Well, I'm so invested in just really helping people improve the quality of their experience. Like I really genuinely just want people to thrive. And the way I see it, the thing that gets in the way of living our best life, of feeling peace of mind, inner joy and fulfillment and contentment, just to be excited to wake up in the morning and to feel grateful more often than not. Like the way I say it's actually not that hard. And the thing that gets in the way of this incredible state of being, which all of us want, by the way, all of us want to feel this way. And that's why we want what we want, whether it's the new car or the new job, or we have these ideas that if I just get this new job or retire or whatever the thing is, I'll finally be happy. But that's just a false premise. Really, we all want to thrive. And I wrote this book because the way I with all the conversations I've had, the thing that gets in our way of doing that is ourselves. Like, conditions of around us can be challenging, but life is going to present lots of stuff. The thing that gets in the way is ourselves. And what that means really is there are perceptual shifts that we can make to unlock our ability to claim the life we were born to live. And I wrote this book because I don't mean to sound super simplistic, but it doesn't have to be hard. It's not hard. There's this idea that finally living the life of your dreams takes a lot of hard work. Well, yeah, you want to work hard on the things you love, sure. But it's not hard in the way that we're thinking about it. It's not elusive. It's not complicated. It just takes understanding what's really going on and focusing on the most important things, which is the relationship we have with ourselves and the beliefs we hold about how life works. Guess what? We are in charge of both. So let's harness it in the way that serves us, because at the end of the day, what's most important is that we feel good and that we love our lives. Yeah.
So good. So good. You just mentioned something that really stood out to me in the book and has also been coming into my own awareness a lot in the past few months, which is choosing, right? Choosing. We really do have a choice, and we don't realize that we have the power to choose. A lot of times we don't think that we do,
right?
But we do. And that really is a superpower. And you mentioned that in the book, that the power of choice is your superpower. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more for us?
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, it's funny. I've kind of known that this thing called choice really is a gift and truly a superpower. But it wasn't until I was really in the process of writing the book that it became so evident. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was really, really organically, it was really a lovely process. But going back to this topic of choice, it is everything. And every moment that we are presented, we have a choice point. Every moment that comes our way is a choice point. And it's a choice. We have a choice either to react to stimulus, react to the stuff that we are experiencing, which most of us do, and then regret later on, or respond. Right. And responding, what does that mean? That means to be fully present. It means to be choosing from a place of truth, not from a place of fear. And choice, we often think, okay, choice is everything. I get to choose. We usually stop at the level of action and think, okay, well, really what we're talking about is the choices we make on a day-to-day basis, whether that's what time I'm going to wake up, what, am I going to work out today or not? Am I going to eat this over that? Like, that's important for sure, right? Choice at the level of action is important, but really what this book is about, it takes it one level deeper, and it's choice at the level of perception.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So take us further down the rabbit hole. What could that look like?
Yeah. So we have five senses to input all the stimulus, which gets processed, and we now make sense of our reality. We think the reality out there is objective, right? And and like we can get into a big philosophical conversation if that's true or not. So I won't go there.
But like what I think, for example, when you say that we think it's objective, does that mean like I believe that my perception of what's happening, happening in reality is your same perception, is everyone else's same perception. It's just the way it is. This is reality. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, so that's why I'm like, well, we could totally go down a different rabbit hole and be like, is what you're perceiving, is your purple the same as my purple? Is what you saw, what I just saw? Like, I mean, that's a constant conversation about, what it is that we're perceiving it, like at the stimulus level and what we process. Where I like to focus in on is we get to choose how we are interpreting what it is that we are inputting. Right.
Okay.
And so that's the power.
Okay, I want to give an example just to break this down, because I work
Sure.
best with examples and I'm sure others do too.
Yes.
So let's say somebody says something to you and it triggers you. That happened to me recently, very recently, where someone said something to me and it was very triggering. And I know, and it's in as much personal development and self-reflection as I've done over many, many, many years, it's tough. We can still get very much caught up in it. And I got caught up in it, and I was translating what this person was saying to me through the perception of my past, the filters of the experiences of my past. And it hit a pain point, because it triggered some pain because of the past. It had nothing to do with them whatsoever. But my initial emotional reaction was to react in a way that was like, hey, you're hurting me, almost getting upset, even a little angry, like, how dare you?
Yeah.
Whereas when I really stopped and gave that pause that you're talking about to just reflect and choose the response that is in line with who I want to be and how I want to live my life, I chose to look at that with other eyes and say, well, wait a second, let's look a little deeper. Why am I reacting like this? And where is that coming from? And what is their intention?
Right.
Are they intending to hurt me?
Right.
Probably not, because that's not what I know of this person. So why am I reacting like this?
That's right.
And I had to look deeper. And so by allowing myself the time to reflect and choose a response, now how I chose to respond was more like, hey, let me talk to this person about that and say, hey, did you mean this way? Or did you mean this way? Because just so you know a little bit about me, and then it gave me a moment to be vulnerable, which I'm also working on a little more, which is, hey, this is a trigger for me. And by you saying it like this, I'm feeling this way. I don't know if that was the right way to respond or not, but it was my truth.
Yes. Well, but here's the thing. But if you're choosing it in full awareness, then who's to say it's right or wrong? Then it's the right choice. It's because you're not reacting, you're actively choosing that. But that's exactly what we're talking about here. Choice at the level of interpretation. Well, so when I say perception, it's how do we want to interpret just what just happened, right? We could make it mean something about them. We could make it mean something about us. We could choose to look at this and reappraise this, to reframe it. We can look at this from any different angle. Which angle do I want to pick so that it's so that I'm in this, I'm thriving, right? Which angle do I want to, so, for me, one of the things that I regularly come back to is to reaffirm, you know what? I just got triggered, but really, truly, their statement really doesn't mean anything about me at the core. Like, let me look at this in a new, like, what might be going on. And so what you did was, how can I look at this in a new way? That's the secret. How can I look at this in a new way? Yeah.
The power to choose. And that's what makes it a superpower, because you can then live a life, align your life the way you want to live it, as opposed to being reactionary to everything and thinking that things are beyond your control. And so that's where the power of choice really comes in handy to living your life on purpose. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Actually, I think it also has to do with, we as humans are given the gift of free will. right?
Yes. Yes.
That is a gift that we've got as humans that we just take for granted,
Mhm.
that really it is up to us. We can make
Mhm.
our life whatever we want.
Mhm.
And
Totally.
if we choose to go down the victim victim role, that's our choice. We
That's
can,
right.
but it's our
That's right.
choice. But why would
That's
you
right.
choose that?
Gosh, I love this. And something I'm really big on, and I focus on it quite a bit of the book, is that you just have to decide if you really want to play the game of life well and have fun with it and really truly decide to thrive. You have to first decide to care about how you feel, because how
Yeah.
you feel is telling you everything about what you're up to. Because how you feel is really the result of your focus. And you get to
Yeah.
choose your focus. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, we get to choose. Do you want to play the victim? Do you want to play this? Do you want to play that? We can actually even make this more simple. We can say, how about let's just start with, if you care about how you feel, and then you decide, you know what? I want to feel more good more often than not.
Mhm.
And I've decided, and I offer this in the book, you just have to decide that you're intolerant of feeling crappy. That's
I
all.
love that. Yes, I love that phrase. Yes.
Just decide that you're intolerant of feeling crappy. Right now, am I falling prey to the whole toxic positivity thing? Like, oh, like, we can only be happy. No, 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 no. Just saying, let's be sensitive to how we feel, because if we want to feel good and then we catch that we're not feeling great, then that's really a cue to get curious about, how am I focusing right now? What am I
Yeah.
thinking about? What am I narrating? What is my focal point? What am I making this mean right here, right now?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if we let our feeling be our guide and the cue for us to wake up, that's when we really start to live, in the driver's seat and take charge of our own life.
It's so good. You mentioned that in your book. You let your feelings, something like let your feelings be your GPS.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that so much. Instinctively, that's how I've chosen to live my life since I was very young and independent. Once I became
Mm.
independent, I learned to just go with my feelings, and they never led me wrong.
Mm.
So thankfully I instinctively did that, but I always went towards what made me feel good, and what would make me feel badly or not good, I would walk away from. I would leave. I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds simple, but it's not easy, I don't think, when you're not used to that, because so many of us learn. I read something not too long ago about learned helplessness,
Mm.
and
Mm.
I've never heard of that before, but man, is this powerful. I'll give you a quick example, and I might butcher this, but I think the audience will really appreciate this story. It's actually a true story. It's a study that was done, I think it was in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, somewhere in there. Don't quote me on this, but I only read it not that long ago. But basically, there was a study that was done with 3 different sets of dogs. This is going to sound terrible at first, but again, I think because this was so long ago, they could get away with it. But one group of dogs, what they did was they shocked them, and they didn't give them any choice outside of that shocking. They just every once in a while would administer shock, and the dogs learned to get used to the shocks. The other group, they had a little lever that the dog could put his little paw on to stop the shock. And so the dog learned, oh, if I hit this lever, the shock would stop. So they eventually learned, hey, I can choose to not let this shock happen, and they would stop it. And the last group never got any shocks. So they put all of these 3 groups of dogs in a box together, a large boxed in area. And in the middle of this box is a divider that shocks you if you hit it, if you come up
Mm.
against this divider, right? So the dogs that had never been shocked simply learned to walk over the divider. They're like, oh, I don't like that shock. Let me walk over it. The dogs that had the choice as to whether or not to be shocked did the same thing. They were like, oh, I don't
Mhm.
like this shock. I know I have the choice to walk over it. So they walked over it. The dogs that had been repeatedly shocked without any choice simply did not avoid the shock. They
Mm.
they didn't
Mhm.
know that they had a choice
Mm. Mm.
because they
Mm.
had gotten so used to it. And I
Mm.
think that's super valid here, is that so many of us learn helplessness, whether we
Yeah.
are as children, taught to be the nice girl or the nice guy, and to learn to put our feelings how we truly feel about things aside in order to please others, please our parents, be seen as the nice girl or the nice guy. We learn that shock of that feels like, ooh, it's uncomfortable. I don't want to be here, mommy. I don't want to, be doing this and that. They're like, no, your feelings don't matter, right? You just comply. And we learn that shock so much that we don't realize that into adulthood.
That's right.
We have a choice.
Yeah, that we can do something about it.
Yeah. And so when you think that you're helpless and don't have a choice, like, well, I'm in this situation, what do? I don't have a choice. I have to be this. I have to do this at work. I've got to be the good wife or the, whatever, like all these shoulds. And so that's another thing you talk about in the book that I thought was just outstanding. I would love for you to elaborate that on a little bit more for us. The shoulds, we get caught up in these shoulds, which can be that trap of like, well, you feel this learned helplessness that you don't think you have a choice because of the shoulds. But can you talk a little bit more about these shoulds that you mentioned in your book and why that's a bit of a no-no for us?
Yeah. No, well, thank you for sharing that, Jenna, because I think it's such a powerful, almost visceral, you can feel it. That study, what it's telling us about just how we can become conditioned by virtue of exposure and experience and repeated experience. And what a great segue into should, because should really is a conditioning that we all fall prey to. And we aren't really taught to take a step back and be like, wait, hold on. What's going on with this word should? Like, first off, it doesn't make me feel good when I use it. It doesn't feel good when it's used on me. And yet I use it all the time. And I think it works. I think like we don't really examine what's going on. And so,
for example, real quick. So like should meaning like, for example, I should take this job. It pays well.
Yeah.
Right?
I should. Oh, we use it. Yeah. I should study more. I shouldn't have waited so long to prepare for this presentation.
My boyfriend and I have been together for 2 years. We should now think about moving in and get married.
That's right. That's right.
That kind of, no, but those are shoulds, right?
That's right. I should be a better parent. I shouldn't let my kids on video games so long. I should.
Yeah.
And you just have to say should according to who?
Right.
Like according to who? According to what?
Yeah.
And then you stop and you're like, wait, hold on. According to me? But then when you really think about it, anytime we use should, it never feels good.
Yeah.
I mean, when you use it, Jenna, how does it feel when you use it?
No,
like
it's deflating. It's disempowering. You don't feel at your best. It's like, oh, but I should do this. I shouldn't eat so much. I shouldn't drink so much. Well, maybe that is a should.
You're like, I should listen to that.
Yeah. But honestly, like, for example, my boyfriend and I are at a year in our relationship.
Wow.
And we've decided to try living together without fully, getting a single place together. We're going to join, live at each other's places and try that out. But, it's like, okay, now most folks would be like, well, you should, a lot. I shouldn't say most folks, but some people are saying like, well, it might be time to, get married or think about getting engaged. It's like, or, moving to this next step or whatever, but according to who?
Right.
Like, according what do we want? Like, ultimately it's like, where's the should, there is no should. It's what feels right. We're doing this because it feels good to us to go to this next step, but what's next shouldn't have a should on it.
No, that's exactly right. And, and what's interesting about this word though, is that what's going on and the reason it feels so heavy, there's a couple things. So the word should, the concept implies that there's some fixed reality out there that we're measuring ourselves against that we have to align to in order to live the good life. Right. And we really think about that's what's going on. Now we don't consciously think about it that way, but that's the implication, that there is some big should reality up in the sky, that if you're going to live the good life, you got to get married by this with a white picket fence and right. And it's like, wait, that doesn't exist. There is no standard way things should be, period. At all for anything in the world. You can say, well, when it comes to heart surgery, you should do it this way. Well, you know what? They're constantly innovating. We don't know. Like we're in a constant state of innovating. Is there a should way about it? There is no way things should be. There's just a way things are. And there's the way we want them. Now, the other part to should, this whole big story is that the reason it feels heavy is that what's happening is that when we are using the word should to motivate ourselves to change or to do something, what's more in our focus is the stuff we don't want. When we use should, we are actually trying to avoid negative consequences more than we are reaching for what we actually want.
Yeah.
Right. And I use the example, I should go to the gym. I use that because everybody gets this, right? Because if I say, oh, I should go to the gym, what is in my awareness, right? I've tricked myself into thinking that I'm motivating myself to the gym and all is well. No, what's really in my awareness, if I say I should go to the gym, what I'm focusing on without realizing it is, oh, I feel fat. Oh, I ate too much cheese last night. Shoot. Oh, right. Or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And there's a guilt. And so now I want to push away negative consequences. I don't want to be fat because guess what? I'm going to Cancun in 2 weeks and that's going to be awful if I have to get a bathing suit and I feel bad and guilty. So right. So we push away negative consequences. Now check this out. I'm going to do a visual for you because this is, and if I don't know, do people just listen in? I'm not sure because
they watch. They're mostly watch.
Okay, good. Yeah. So check this out. Now let's imagine that everything you don't want in the world is on this side of you. Okay. So this is debt and rejection and missed opportunity and failure and all the things you don't want. Okay. This is looking fat in a bathing suit, this side. Now let's imagine that everything you do want is on this side of you, which is love and joy and freedom and feeling free and feeling amazing in that bathing suit on the beach, right? That's on this side of you. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you use the word should, essentially what's happening is you are facing everything you don't want and you go, oh, I don't want this. And so you push it away. Now, which way am I going? I'm going this way, right? And so in the process of pushing requires resistance. Pushing requires bandwidth. This is eating up cognitive, mental, emotional, spiritual resources on the path of trying to live my best life. And the worst part, I'm only facing the stuff that I don't want, right? Versus now, if I say I should go to the gym, no. Instead of focusing on negative consequences, there's a choice point. Well, here's the pivot. It's like, wait. What do I want?
Yeah.
So here's what's wild. It's in the recognizing, well, what is it that I want? This is when it gets real. You're like, actually, I want to feel healthy. I want to feel free. I want to feel youthful. I want to feel invigorated. It goes beyond, I want to look good in a bathing suit. I mean, yeah, that's part of it. But it's, wait, I want to feel. Now, by doing the whole pivot, and when you bring this into awareness, okay, no should, here's what I want. I want to feel in tune with my body. I want to feel connected. I want to feel youthful. Now, in that pivot, you drop the resistance, which now means you've reclaimed all of those resources that you spent in pushing, right? Because it's like weightlifting, it's resources. In the pivot, now you are able to see things that's in your vision of what's wanted that you had no access to when you were facing this way. So in the pivot, you're like, oh, wait, I want to feel good. Oh, you know what? It's a beautiful day. Yeah. I'm going to go on a hike with my neighbor. And all of these things that are what you want now become more obvious. And there's a path of least resistance to the path of most abundance that's more available purely by making that pivot.
Yeah. That's so good. That's so good. Oh, thank you for that. Thank you for that visual. It really helps to see it. And, you're right. You do spend a lot of resources being in a state of resistance versus being in the flow. There are no shoulds in the flow.
None.
It just is, right? It just is. And if you face if you face like what you want to go towards, even just visualizing that and mentally making that shift, I feel lighter. I feel more joyous, feel more positive. It feels so much better.
But so much better. So much better.
But what do you think causes us to to deal with all these shoulds? Is this just the way we've been conditioned and raised?
I think it's because we were showed on all of our lives. You should clean your room. You should get up. You should.
Wait. Did you say we were should on all of our lives?
Yeah, we were showed on all of our lives, right? And then we should on ourselves all of our lives,
Oh God.
right? And then we are programmed to think that our success is due in large part to all the shoulding that we did. That's it. And I think that's what gets stuck. But there was a thought that I was like, oh, right.
Yes.
I wanted to share about this that, because, and here's the other thing. On the flip side of us thinking that this is how we succeed, we also have this fear that we're going to fail horribly if we don't mind the shoulds, right? Because it's like, wait, well, I should pay my bills because nobody wants to pay your bills, right? Yeah. And I should clean the bathroom. It's like, well, I don't really like cleaning the bathroom, but I like a clean bathroom, right? And so there's this weird fear that we have that things are going to fall through the cracks. We're going to be a horrible human, or we actually won't create change, because I'll get in conversation sometimes and people will be like, well, there are clearly things that shouldn't be happening right now out in the world. That sort of genocide, this sort of like, it shouldn't be happening. And I say, you know what? I'm with you in the fact that like I do not want this at all.
Right.
And here's the opportunity. When we meet things that we want change, right? Because by saying let's drop the shoulds, I am not at all advocating that we become doormats, that we become, tolerant of mediocrity. What I'm saying is when we meet something we don't want and we push against it, trying to create change, it's essentially eating up our creative and creative bandwidth to actually come up with innovative solutions. And so I have this other visual I'll show you here. So I've got this pitcher of water. It's about maybe 4 pounds or so, right? Now, if I hold this out like this as I'm talking to you, that's resistance. Yes. Now, if I'm using should, I'm now using resistance because I'm pushing against negative consequences. Now, if I want to change something, let's say I want to change a policy at my kid's school around, equality, and I'm shoulding all over. It shouldn't be like this. They shouldn't act this way. Well, essentially, it's like me trying to engage in going forth and creating change, holding this out. It's me having this conversation with you, holding this out. Now, can I have this conversation with you? Yeah. But this is kind of distracting.
Yeah. It takes a lot of effort.
Eating away at my ability to actually be present with you and come up with really good solutions. And so we could use should and use resistance as we go ahead. But the problem is it distracts us, because now if I put it down, okay, now it's like, wait, oh, there are so many other possibilities here.
Right.
And we want all of those resources to meet our moments, to be more innovative, to be more connected, to be more empathetic, to be more creative. And so that's really what this is about. It's about reclaiming all that bandwidth.
I love that. It's so true. Bandwidth. We put so much of our attention and focus into justifying our opinions and being right and all the shoulds and all of that. If we could just take back some of that resistance, that energy spent on resisting, you're right. We could just kind of really let that percolate and say, well, what do I really want? Bring it to the power of choice, conscious choice. And like, how do I want to live my life? Live it on purpose, right? Do I want to live in a place of happiness and joy, or do I want to keep creating all this resistance and all this fear and feeding into that? It's still, no matter what, it always is a choice. We just don't realize it.
It's always a choice. And you know what? And we can start being deliberate about it the moment you decide you're intolerant of feeling crappy. Let your feeling be your guide. If you're feeling great, keep going. If you don't feel great, check in with yourself. What are you focused on? Can I choose to go about this differently? Can I choose to narrate this differently? Can I interpret this differently?
So going back to the whole let your feeling be your guide, why is it that you find that your clients, for example, those who don't practice it, why do you think they don't practice that let your feeling be your guide? And what percentage do you think of folks that you've encountered that is?
Oh, I would say most everyone.
Wow.
And it's because, there's, a handful of reasons. But the first, I would say, I think what feels most true is that we get really good at being conditioned to feeling uncomfortable. And like the white noise of anxiety, you don't hear it. You don't feel it anymore. We're almost desensitized to the stress, to the anxiety, to the overwhelm, to to the negativity because it's just so present. It's kind of like the hum of my laptop right now. It's
Mm,
it's been present all morning. Do I hear it? No, not until I actually, oh yeah, I can actually can hear that. And
mm.
so it's just running in the background and we've gotten so used to it. We don't think to question it. We just think it's the way things are.
It's that learned helplessness kind of a thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'd say
Ah,
that's the first part is recognizing that we just become conditioned and I love how yeah, you map it to that. It's exactly that. Then the
mm.
second part of it is there's a lot of weird context around emotions, and we just
Yeah.
it's so interesting. It's like, oh, emotions are bad. We don't want to be
Mm,
emotional. Like I don't I or I can't feel my emotions. I've been
mm,
programmed to not feel. So I can't pick up on them. And so really depending upon someone's relationship and really shows an understanding of what emotions are and what they're about and what they're here to do, like that relationship to emotions is going to determine really what's possible. But again, it's a choice. So the first
mm.
step is waking up to, well, how do I want to look at emotions? Like how can I relate to this very real reality that all of us humans have,
Right.
things called emotions? Like, how do I want to look at this? Right. And so I talk a lot about, well, what are these emotions here? And there's so much to say about the world of emotions and how we're
Mm,
actually emotional beings that think. We're not thinking beings that emote, right? It's actually the other way around. And
mm,
a great book that
mm.
proves, quote unquote, proves this is Jill Bolt Taylor. She had did a TED talk. She was a neuroanatomist and she had a stroke. And her book called My Stroke of Insight. Oh,
I saw that TED Talk.
oh,
Yes. So good.
so good.
Yeah.
I chill up thinking about her work in that book. And but again, proof that we're feeling beings that think, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so much to say about this. But just
Yeah.
taking a look at, well, how do I want to relate to this very real biological human reality that all of us
Mm.
have
Yeah.
emotions?
Yeah. Oh, so good. You mentioned a quote in your book, which has been really sitting with me lately. It's insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That was Albert
Einstein.
Einstein.
That's right. That's such a good quote, right?
That's so good. But if you think about it, I mean, for those of us who are trying to figure out, like, how do I make positive change in my life,
Mhm.
a lot of the times we end up just looking at life as we know it, the things that we've always done or the things that we've been exposed to, and we just keep tackling it from that perspective
Mhm. Mhm.
instead of trying to see how we could do things differently that will better serve us. Because if something's
Yeah.
not working, then it's not working.
Right.
And it might be a way of looking at the world, a belief system. It could be limiting beliefs. So, for example, I won't name names, but I was talking to a family friend and they were talking about going back to school again for like the third time when they had dropped out a bunch of times for reasons I won't go into. But now they're, this is many, many, many years later, and and I was like, well, what are you trying to do? Well, I want to get into this career, but I want to also meet people, and I want to blah 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 blah. And everything they were saying was like, well, why do you have to go to school for that?
Mm. Mhm.
You like, what's your reasoning behind going to school? Well, that's the only way I know. Well,
Mm.
why? And then I was like, well, why don't have you thought about just going and learning those things on the job?
Mhm. Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
you've learned, a lot already. You've got great experience. How about getting in there and just getting a job and doing exactly what you're trying to accomplish, making the friends, learning more about your profession, all of that on the job? What's
Yeah.
wrong with that? And they're like, well, because I don't know. And I don't know any of those types of company. I don't know, blah, 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 blah. I was like, yeah, well, let's say, have you looked? Well, no, but I just don't know. And it's like, it's a way of thinking where it's like, if that's
Mhm.
not been in their awareness and all they
Mhm.
know is school,
Mhm.
then, and that's not working, but it's like, let me just keep beating my head against this
Yeah.
wall.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're talking, like what you refer to when you talk about this in the book?
It's absolutely. I mean, not directly, but I mean, what you're talking about is it's really the art of waking up and being like,
Yeah.
can I go about this in a different way? And it is a skill
Yeah.
to meet our moments and think, "Ah, can I look at this differently? Can I approach
Yeah.
this differently?
Yeah.
It's a skill to harness curiosity
Yeah.
about how we
Curiosity.
might be able to go about our days. And where I find we get the most bang for our buck is really harnessing that curiosity at the level of interpretation, right? Because that's going to determine so much
Mm.
of our thoughts and then our words and then our actions. So that, oh yeah, actually, I don't have to go to school to do that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so, I use an analogy in the book, and I use this often in coaching, that, to wake up to a new way of going about things, to wake up to a new thought, to wake up. It's a little bit of a paradigm shift, that
Mm.
feeling of like, whoa, because it's not just a new
Mm.
thought. It's a bit of a paradigm shift, that feeling that you're talking about right here. It's like, wait, maybe I don't have to go to school. It's beyond a new thought. And the way it feels is, have you ever been at the experience where you're at a door and you're pushing at the door and you're like, oh, and you're trying to nudge
Yes.
your way through, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, haha, pull, and
Yeah.
then you pull
Yeah.
the door open, right? And so it's that insight that you have. Oh, wait, I can go about this a completely different way. And
Yeah.
in the process of waking up to that, you find it's way more effortless. This is a lot
Yeah.
more fun, but it took a little bit of an outside the box thinking to
Yeah.
get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really what all of this is about. Yeah.
Well, so when my family friend was saying like, well, when I was saying asking why don't you try going and getting a job and learning on the job, they're like, yeah, but I don't know. And I was like, well, why are you letting I don't know stop you?
Good question.
And do you ever think about that? Just because you don't know, why should that stop you? You do know that the school thing hasn't been working for you.
Yeah.
You already know that. So that's a
Yes.
known. You don't know about this other thing, which may work better. You don't know. But why is the
Yeah.
unknown stopping you?
Yeah.
And so you talk about limiting beliefs in your book, and I'd really love to, while we have a little bit of time left, dive into what limiting beliefs are, because I don't know that everyone understands what that is. Even have a lot of us haven't heard of the term. I personally hadn't heard of the term limiting beliefs until 2-3 years ago. So it's pretty
Wow.
recent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but that to me was clearly a limiting belief. It's well, I don't know if it was a fear of the unknown or whatever that was stopping them, just that whatever that one belief is that was stopping him from considering this whole other
Mhm.
amazing option.
Mhm. Mhm.
Would you be able
Totally.
to, yes, please, like shed a
Yeah.
little spotlight on what limiting
Absolutely.
beliefs are and how do they stop us from really thriving in life?
So limiting beliefs, yeah, and I mean, let's use this example because it's perfect. Limiting beliefs are kind of live below the surface of our awareness,
Mm,
and it's not until you really put a spotlight onto the situation and yourself that you can really start to see it clearly. So I would bet for this family friend of yours, underneath the surface of this conversation that he's having with himself and with you is a belief that he's holding or she is holding that is, you know, I'm going to fail at things that I don't know. It's too hard. I'm not good enough. I'm not
mm,
worthy. Um, doing new things is hard. Failing is bad, right? So all those things I just listed are essentially beliefs
yeah.
that we're choosing on some level, but
Mhm,
notice how limiting they are.
mhm,
And all of us humans take on limiting beliefs in the process of developing and navigating because look, we're trying to stay safe. We're
yeah.
trying to stay safe from environmental threats and social threats equally. And so we take on these limiting beliefs in order to kind of, ooh, stay safe. But in the long run, it doesn't serve us. But we
Yeah.
can't do anything about it unless we actually see it clearly. Like,
Mm,
oh, that's what I'm telling myself, that this is too hard, that
yeah.
I'm not good enough, that I'm not worthy. And the truth of the matter is, yes, they are beliefs, they are limiting beliefs, but we are choosing them.
Mhm,
Now, what I really stress in the book, and I always stress this in coaching, this is such a big point, where it gets really frustrating for folks is that a lot of people that come through my door, or I work in my practice, or I work with them in some way, they've done a fair amount of work to know, you know what, I get it. I get that I'm choosing to believe I'm not competent. I'm choosing to believe that I'm not worthy. I'm choosing to believe that I'm not good enough. That's not the problem. The problem is I don't know how to choose otherwise. And so what
Yes.
this book is about, and I know that intimately. And so we don't just stop at, hey, guess what? It's your choice. Good luck. See you later. It's not that's not going to help us. So what this book is about, what my work is about, is taking people on a journey to understand the neuroscience, the development, the psychology, and use logic to get you to a place of accessible choice. So it's not enough to just know that we're choosing these wrong things. You have to be able to choose otherwise. Well, what does that mean? Well, we kind of have to go on a journey to get to that place. Oh, I get that I'm choosing that I'm not good enough. But now I totally get how I could just choose that I am good enough. Because right now, as I'm telling you this, Jenna, like, and anyone else that's listening, they'd be like, "Ugh, yeah, whatever. Okay, just believe I'm good enough. That works." I know it doesn't. That's right. But so you have to organically get to the place where you really direct. Oh,
Yeah.
in the same way that, okay, pull, not push. That paradigm shift, it takes a bit of a process to get to accessible choice.
Mm.
That's why I wrote the book.
Oh, I
That's
love that so
like
much.
the roadmap. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, let me ask you this then, because I came to this epiphany about limiting beliefs, a few years ago. And just because I now know what that is, doesn't mean they don't come up. But that is that power when it comes up in the moment for you to look at it and make that choice. It doesn't make it stop coming up,
That's
because
right.
I think that for me anyway, and where I'm at in my personal development, they're still going to keep coming up. It comes up every time I try something new, especially, or look into trying something new or push myself out of my comfort zone. Man, do those limiting beliefs come up.
Oh,
But
totally.
I have to make the choice as to whether, I have to look at it. And I force myself to do that and say, no, I know what this is. I'm not going to let this stop me. I know I'm not alone in this. And even you who've been teaching this for years, Amy, tell us, like, does this also come up for you on the regular?
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. And I think, oh, I'm so glad you bring this up because it is my hypothesis and my belief that we never really get to a place where we're not going to have thoughts that don't serve us. We're not going to have beliefs that don't serve us. The work is to be so adept to catching it and not choosing it. And because that's where the thrill of life is
Mm,
to notice the choice point and then choose otherwise. Whew, it's like, right.
mm,
Okay, I don't have to choose
yeah.
this. I mean, that's where life is lived, not in
Yeah.
the blindly, oh, I'm just going to float along with no negative beliefs and
Mm.
no issues. Like that's no fun, right? It's to catch when you start going down that path and go, wait, no, 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 no. And then you pivot back into and you feel your
Yeah.
power, you feel that right agency. It's like, yes, this is right. So that is such a big part, I think, of what thriving is, and
Mhm.
for me, I'm pretty good at catching those thoughts and those beliefs that don't serve me. Why? Because again, I'm going to bring it back to this all the time because I so intimately care about how I feel.
Yeah. You
And
got to
how
care
I
about how
feel
you
tells me what's
feel.
going on. And if I'm
Yeah.
not feeling if I'm not feeling great, then something's going on in my
Mm.
focus. And you know what? Let's get it down to the bare bones. What am I believing? I'm believing. Okay, I'm believing. I'm believing. And so, the nature of my false belief or my limiting beliefs right now is, for example, it might not be I'm not worthy. Right now, what I'm struggling with is it's hard to say no.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know? And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's a belief. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be hard to say no
It
to
doesn't have to be. You could just
right.
say
But it's
no.
like, oh,
Exactly.
it's interesting, does
Yeah.
that belief serve me? Right. So, but it's catching, we catch at the level of we catch because of how we feel, not because
Yeah.
of what we're thinking. Because trying to catch your thoughts is maddening. Oh my God, our thoughts are
Mm.
crazy. And if you try to make it a point to catch your thoughts, that's an unwinnable game.
No, but you're absolutely right. And I talk about this all the time. Even in my book, I have a different way of going about it. So I love that you and I are both on the same mission to really help people understand that how you feel needs to be prioritized. When you
Yes.
set that as your GPS, it makes everything else so easy, right?
Yeah.
Because if you go, I'm not feeling good right now, I'm not feeling powerful, I'm not feeling my best. Why? And then make choices that allow you to feel better, whether that's setting more boundaries on saying no,
Yeah.
right? So you
Yeah.
go, oh,
Yeah.
I'm overwhelmed. I need to feel better. I'm going to just have to say no because I prioritize feeling good all the
Yeah,
time.
that's
Although,
right.
I know with the book launch and everything, sometimes you got to sacrifice a little bit of that for the time being. Anyways.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
that's
Speaking
right.
of book launch, Amy, I want to brag a little bit for you because I think as women, we don't brag enough about ourselves. We've been raised to believe that talking about our accomplishments is conceited or narcissistic. And so we don't do enough of that. And as a result, we end up playing very small. And I'm not saying you do that, but I'm going to brag for you.
Oh, thanks,
So
Jen.
you were just telling me the other day about that your book was chosen to be on the book club for
Oh,
Oprah's.
yes, for
Tell,
a dear a new wonderful friend, Sherry Salata, who is the ex-executive producer for Oprah Winfrey for over 20 years, and so she's got an amazing community, and she's doing amazing work in the world. I mean, she's another incredible woman, just catalyzing so much transformation and change in the world, and yeah, so she said that she really liked my book, and she's like, "We gotta get it out there," and so she's chosen it
that is
as
huge. She chose
I
your
know,
book
her
for
book
her
club
book
choice,
club.
and
That
I know,
is
and
so
on the heels
exciting.
of having chosen Deepak Chopra's new book, so
Oh
that
my
so after
God.
his and, he comes and he talks about it, "Now it's my book." I'm like, "Oh, this is great. This is awesome."
Oh, you have to be so proud of your accomplishment right now. I hope you
Yeah.
are soaking it in and appreciating that.
Well,
But
you
also,
know what you know what it is? It's yeah, I'm definitely proud, but I'm just excited that, like, that what my deepest desire was to truly help people because I know this
yeah,
helps, and to just know that it is helping because you know this, you did the masterful work of translating all of your stories into your amazing book, and
thank
you know
you.
how hard that is, and then you have
Yeah,
to wonder, like, is it gonna work?
that's the
Does it
thing.
like
Yeah,
because it's one thing to think a thought, it's another to
yeah.
say a thought, and you can catalyze transformation and conversation because we get that live feedback, but
Mm,
to write a thought for all audiences for all time, that's a totally different ball of wax, so then you're like, "Okay, did I do it? Did I
yeah,
capture it? Is it
yeah,
working?" And to get that
yeah.
feedback that it is helping, like, okay, here we go.
That's the best there
Yeah,
is. That's why we
yeah.
did this, right?
That's
And
why we did it.
yeah,
That's
to
right.
know that
Yeah.
it's working and that it's resonating and that you're helping change people's lives for the better. There's not much better I think we can get in this world. But you are doing that every day in the work that you do anyway. So it's cool that you can bring this to more of the masses and share
Thank
this with
you.
everyday people like us. So thank you so much for writing the book, going through all the time, effort, energy, money to do this. It was a huge undertaking. And I, for
Oh,
one, am very thrilled that you brought this in the world. So again, it's
oh,
Living on Purpose, everyone. You can pick this up all over the place, including Amazon, probably Barnes and Noble, Target, all of that, right? And
that's
now
right.
she's in the
That's right.
window, Barnes and Noble, Fifth
With
Avenue, New
your
York
book
City,
okay,
with
but let's
mine.
be clear, your book too, and so this is
Yeah, yeah,
amazing. We've got
I
both
know.
of our books, on the storefront of Barnes& and Noble and Fifth Avenue in New York, which is incredible. Go girlfriend, look at us
Girl,
go. Big high
go,
five,
girl.
look at
Yeah, but thank you so much
us.
for sharing this with the world and for all the effort. I know you're feeling a little burnt out right now, but once you get a chance to relax and let it all settle in,
Yeah.
I know that over the next however many years, this book is just going to reach thousands and thousands and thousands, hopefully millions of people.
Mm,
And
thank you.
yeah, thank you for having this
Goes
conversation with
both
me today.
ways. Dear friend, it goes both ways. Thank you so much for doing the incredible work in the world and, being the bright light for all that come into your presence. It's just really,
Hmm,
truly an honor to know you. And I am
thank
just
you,
so
Amy.
delighted we are doing this together.
Me too. Me too. I feel like we have what is the girl version of bromance? We need to have one of those. It's not a girl man's. What is it? Is it a girl man's? A
It's
womance. That's
a
it.
romance, a romance. Here we go.
It's a womance. Before we leave, are there any, final words you want to leave us with, Amy? Just like if you could just leave us with one note, what would it be?
You know, well, I love that you're asking this because it really ties into your message in the world. And, I think we can make this whole process of growth and transformation really convoluted and hard, and oh, there's so much to do and there's so much to achieve and it's going to take so much time, and this is where I want to tie it back to your incredible wisdom and why you wrote your book, and just share that, look, if there's one thing to focus on, it's really one thing, And if we care about the relationship we have with ourselves, that really solves everything, because that relationship with self, what we believe, what we choose to believe about ourselves versus like what we choose to know about ourselves, really that is self-love. To know that you're whole and complete, that is the epitome of self-love. That right there, which in itself is simplistic, but yeah, it's a process. But if we just focus on that, we recognize that really forms the ultimate primary lens that we look out through, that dictates the entire quality of our life. So there's one thing to really focus on. It's that relationship with self. And so self-love is not a cliche, right? It is that it's everything. And so this is where I'm just honored and delighted, and that you have really paved the way to get that message out there.
Oh, well, many more before me, but I was one of the many. But you know what? We can't have enough voices getting this message out there in as many ways as we can, because there's not enough of it. And so we just need as many people as possible putting out this message. So thank you for that final word, Amy. Such a beautiful share. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, you are welcome. I look forward to more conversations.
If you'd like to connect with Amy Wong directly, her website is Always on Purpose, but I've also included a link to it in the show notes, as well as a link to her book, Living on Purpose, which is also included in the show notes as well. If you haven't already subscribed to the show yet, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button now, because I have so much more to share with you in the future about how you can truly live life to your fullest potential. If we haven't connected on social media yet, please connect with me on either Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, wherever you like getting your news feed. You'll find me on all of the above at my handle at Jenna Banks.0. You'll also find me on Twitter at Jenna Banks411, and on LinkedIn, just type in my name, Jenna Banks. Thank you so much for tuning into the show today. I really hope to see you again next time. And remember, your love is your power. Until next time.